I stood in the grand hall of the Ashford estate, my wedding dress hanging in my closet upstairs, untouched. The man I was supposed to marry in 3 hours sat across from me, his hand intertwined with my sister's. My younger sister, Victoria. "Emily, be reasonable," Mother said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Victoria and Lord Edmund are in love. Surely you can see that." I could see it. I'd seen it for weeks. Stolen glances, whispered conversations, the way they disappeared together during family dinners. In my past life, I'd been blind to it. I'd married Edmund anyway, desperate to please my family, to be the dutiful daughter. That marriage had destroyed me. But this wasn't my past life anymore. "I see perfectly, Mother." My voice came out steady, cold. Inside, my heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands didn't shake. Not this time. Which is why I'm calling off the engagement. The room went silent. Father dropped his teacup. It shattered against the marble floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "You're... what?" Edmund's face paled. Not from heartbreak, from fear. Without this marriage, his family's debts would crush them. I knew that now. I discovered it only after he'd taken everything from me, drained my dowry, and left me to die in poverty while he and Victoria lived in luxury. "I'm calling it off," I repeated, meeting his eyes. "Consider yourself free to pursue your true desires, Lord Edmund." Victoria's face flickered between triumph and confusion. She'd expected me to fight, to beg, to make a scene. In my previous life I had. I'd clung to Edmund even as he openly courted my sister, believing that love and loyalty would win him back. What a fool I'd been. "Emily, Ashford," Father's voice boomed, "you will do no such thing. The invitations have been sent. The guests are arriving. You will marry Lord Edmund today, or I will disown you." I turned to face him. This man who had never once put my happiness above his social standing. In my past life, those words would have broken me. Now, they set me free. "Then disown me, Father." The words fell like stones into still water. Mother gasped. Victoria's mouth fell open. Edmund stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "You ungrateful girl," Father snarled, his face reddening. "After everything we've done for you, everything you've done to me, you mean?" I smiled, and it felt like ice spreading across my face. "But don't worry, I won't burden you any longer." I walked toward the door, each step feeling like shedding chains. Behind me, chaos erupted. Mother was crying, Father was shouting. Edmund was trying to salvage the situation, his voice desperate and grasping. I didn't look back. At the doorway, I paused. There was one more thing I needed to do. One piece of revenge I'd been planning since the moment I'd opened my eyes 3 months ago, reborn into this nightmare with all my memories intact. "Oh, and Father?" I turned slightly, just enough to see his furious face. "You might want to check the Western warehouse. I believe there's been some irregularities with the accounts." His face went from red to white in an instant. Good. Let him discover what I'd found. Years of embezzlement, false records, illegal dealings. In my past life, those secrets had come out after my death, destroying the Ashford name completely. This time, I'd make sure they surfaced while I was alive to watch. I walked out into the morning sun, leaving behind the family that had never truly been mine. The streets of the capital were bustling, but I barely noticed. I'd spent the last 3 hours walking aimlessly, my mind racing with plans and possibilities. I had money. Not much, but enough. I'd secretly sold some jewellery over the past months, preparing for this moment. I had knowledge of the future, of investments that would pay off, of disasters that could be avoided. But I was still alone. Still a woman in a society that viewed unmarried females as failures. "Miss Ashford?" I turned. A man in military uniform stood behind me, his face weathered and serious. I recognized him. Captain Lawrence, one of General Cale Thorne's men. My heart skipped. General Thorne. The disabled general. In my past life, I'd heard whispers about him. A war hero who'd lost the use of his legs in battle, now confined to a wheelchair, rejected by society despite his service. He'd become a recluse, and eventually, after years of isolation, he died alone and forgotten. But I knew something no one else did. I'd heard the rumours in my previous life, dismissed as fantasy, that the general would walk again, that he'd return to lead the army to unprecedented victory, that he'd become one of the most powerful men in the Empire. Captain Lawrence, I said carefully, what brings you here? The general requests your presence, Miss Ashford, if you're willing. My mind raced. How did he know I'd be here? How did he know about the broken engagement? Unless... How long has he been watching me? I asked. Captain Lawrence's lips twitched. The general has many eyes, Miss Ashford, and he has a proposal for you. A proposal. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with possibility. I should have been cautious. I should have asked questions, demanded details. But something in my chest pulled me forward. Intuition, or perhaps the memory of how this man would rise, how he would become unstoppable. Take me to him, I said. The Thorne estate was smaller than the Ashford mansion, but infinitely more elegant. No ostentatious displays of wealth, just clean lines and quiet dignity. Captain Lawrence led me through halls lined with military commendations and battle maps until we reached a study. General Cale Thorne sat behind a massive desk, his wheelchair positioned carefully. But it was his eyes that caught me, sharp, intelligent, burning with an intensity that made my breath catch. He was younger than I'd expected, perhaps 30, with dark hair and a scar running along his jaw. Miss Ashford, he said, his voice deep and controlled, thank you for coming. You knew, I said without preamble, about Edmund, about today. I make it my business to know things. He gestured to a chair. Please, sit. I sat, my heart pounding. This close, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands gripped the armrests of his wheelchair. A man caged by his own body, burning to break free. I hear you freed yourself from an unfortunate arrangement, he continued. And I assume you're now facing social ruin, financial insecurity, and family disgrace. You assume correctly, General. Then perhaps we can help each other. He leaned forward slightly. I need a wife, Miss Ashford. Someone intelligent, brave, and willing to weather society's scorn. In return, I can offer you protection, security, and freedom from your family's control. A marriage of convenience. My mind spun. In my past life, I'd heard he never married, never let anyone close. But here he was, offering me exactly what I needed. Why me? I asked. Why not some noble daughter desperate to secure her family's position? His smile was sharp, predatory. Because those women would pity me. They'd see a broken man and either run in fear or condescend with false sympathy. But you... He studied me intently. You look at me and see something else entirely. I can see it in your eyes. You're not afraid of me, you're evaluating me, calculating. Like you know something the rest of the world doesn't. I felt exposed, vulnerable. Could he sense my rebirth? Did he somehow know about my second chance? And what do you see when you look at me, General? I asked, deflecting. A woman who just walked away from everything she was supposed to want. A woman who's willing to burn bridges to be free. A woman who's far more dangerous than she appears. He paused. I like dangerous women, Miss Ashford. The air between us crackled with tension, with unspoken possibilities. What exactly are you proposing? I asked, though I already knew, already wanted it. Marry me. Today. Now. We'll forge a contract. You'll have your own finances, your own freedom within the marriage. I won't demand your affection or your body, but in public we'll present a united front. You'll be my wife, and I'll be your shield against the world that's about to turn on you. It was perfect. Too perfect. And what do you get from this arrangement? I pressed. His expression darkened. Legitimacy. A reason for society to stop pitching their daughters at me like I'm a charity case, and... He hesitated, then met my eyes with burning intensity. Someone who won't abandon me when I'm at my weakest. There was a story there, old pain buried deep, but I didn't ask. Not yet. I accept, I said. The words left my mouth before I could second-guess them. I'll marry you, General Thorne. He smiled then, genuinely smiled, and something in my chest twisted. Call me Cale, he said. If we're to be married, we should at least use first names. Cale, I repeated, testing the name on my tongue. Then you should call me Emily. Emily? He said it softly, like a promise. Let's show the world what happens when two outcasts unite. We married that afternoon in a small chapel with only Captain Lawrence and a priest as witnesses. No flowers, no music, no grand celebration, just two people making a calculated decision that would change everything. I wore a simple dress borrowed from the general's, from Cale's housekeeper. He wore his military uniform, medals gleaming even in the dim chapel light. When the priest asked if we took each other as husband and wife, I felt the weight of the moment settle over me like a cloak. I do, I said firmly. I do, Cale replied, his eyes never leaving mine. The kiss was brief, perfunctory, but when his lips touched mine, I felt something shift. A door opening, a path forming. This was no longer just about revenge or survival. This was something else entirely. By evening, the news had spread through the capital like wildfire. Emily Ashford, the disgraced daughter who'd abandoned her engagement, had married the crippled general on the same day she was supposed to wed Lord Edmund. The scandal was delicious, and society devoured it. I sat in my new home, Cale's home, our home, reading the hasty gossip sheets that had already been printed and distributed. The desperate alliance, I read aloud. Miss Emily Ashford, spurned by her family and society, has married General Cale Thorne in what can only be described as a match born of mutual desperation. Cale wheeled himself into the sitting room, his expression amused. They're being kind. The one I read called us two broken souls clinging to wreckage. I laughed despite myself. How poetic. Your family has issued a statement, he said, his tone shifting to something more serious. They've officially disowned you. Your father claims you've brought shame to the Ashford name. The words should have hurt. In my past life, they would have devastated me. But now, I felt only cold satisfaction. Good, I said. Let them cut me loose. They have no idea what's coming. Cale studied me curiously. You're different from what I expected, Emily. Most women would be crying right now, mourning the loss of their family's love. My family's love was conditional at best, non-existent at worst. I set down the gossip sheet and met his gaze. I learned a long time ago that some people aren't worth mourning. He nodded slowly. I understand that lesson well. For a moment, we sat in comfortable silence. Two strangers who'd bound their lives together, each carrying secrets the other couldn't yet know. There will be a dinner, Cale said finally, in 3 days. The nobles are hosting a gathering, supposedly to welcome the new season, but really to parade us around like circus attractions. We don't have to go. We're going, I said immediately. He raised an eyebrow. You want to face them? They'll tear you apart, Emily. The whispers, the looks, the false sympathy. Let them try. I stood, moving to the window. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood and fire. I'm not the woman they think I am, Cale, and it's time they started learning that. Behind me, I heard his wheelchair move closer. "You're planning something," he said. It wasn't a question. "I'm planning everything," I replied, still watching the sunset. "And when I'm done, they'll all wish they'd treated me better." His hand touched my arm, warm and solid. "Then we'll face them together." I looked down at him. This man I barely knew, but had tied my fate to, and saw something unexpected in his eyes. Respect. Trust, even. "Together," I agreed. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and false smiles. Every eye turned to us as we entered, me in a deep sapphire gown that I'd had made specially for tonight, and Cale in his wheelchair, pushed by Captain Lawrence, but radiating an authority that made grown men step aside. The whispers started immediately. "That's her." Can you believe the audacity? Poor General Thorne, reduced to marrying damaged goods. I kept my head high, my hand resting lightly on Cale's shoulder. We'd practiced this entrance, choreographed it like a military maneuver. Every movement was deliberate, calculated to show strength rather than shame. Lady Beatrice approached first, her smile venomous. "Emily, darling, how brave of you to attend. And General Thorne, what a surprise to see you out in society." "Lady Beatrice," I said coolly. "Still wearing last season's jewels, I see. How economical of you." Her smile froze. Around us, several people snickered. First blood to me. Cale's hand covered mine where it rested on his shoulder, a silent gesture of approval. More vultures circled. Lord Pemberton, who'd once propositioned me at a party. Duchess Aldrich, who'd spread rumours about my mother. And then, cutting through the crowd like a knife, Edmund and Victoria. My former fiancé had the audacity to look concerned. "Emily, I hope there are no hard feelings. Victoria and I are perfectly suited for each other," I interrupted smoothly. "Truly, Edmund, I should thank you. You showed me exactly what I didn't want in a husband. Consider that broken engagement the best gift you ever gave me." Victoria's face flushed. "You're just bitter because what? Because I didn't get to marry a man drowning in debt. Because I didn't trap myself in a loveless marriage with someone who'd already betrayed me." I laughed, the sound sharp and bright. "Oh, Victoria, you've won a prize you can't even see the true cost of yet." Edmund's face went pale. He knew I knew about the debts. About all of it. "That's enough." Father's voice cut through the tension. He approached with Mother at his side, both of them looking furious and uncomfortable. "Emily, you've embarrassed this family enough. I won't have you causing a scene here." "A scene?" I tilted my head. "Father, I'm simply having a conversation with my former fiancé and my dear sister. Surely that's allowed." "You know what I mean." His voice dropped to a threatening whisper. "End this marriage to the cripple and come home. I'll forgive this temporary insanity." Cale's hand tightened on mine. Then, with deliberate slowness, he spoke. "Lord Ashford, I'd advise you to choose your next words very carefully." The temperature in the room dropped. Cale's voice carried command, the kind forged in battlefields and blood. Around us, conversation stilled. "You may have disowned your daughter," Cale continued, his words cutting through the silence, "but she is now under my protection, and I protect what's mine." Father's face reddened. "You think your title means anything anymore? You're a cripple, Thorne, a has-been warrior who can't even—" "Father!" Mother's hand on his arm, her eyes wide with warning. She at least remembered that Cale had been a decorated war hero, that he still had powerful connections in the military. But Father was too angry to see reason. "You'll regret this, Emily. Both of you will. You think you can build a life on scandal and spite. You'll be destitute within a year." I smiled then, cold and knowing. "We'll see, Father. We'll see who regrets what." As my parents stalked away, the crowd buzzed with renewed energy. We'd just provided them with enough gossip to fuel months of dinner parties. "That went well," Cale murmured, a hint of dark humour in his voice. "Better than expected," I agreed. "Now comes the interesting part." As if on cue, an older gentleman approached, General Hawthorne, one of the highest-ranking military officials in the Empire. I recognised him from my past life's memories. "Cale," he said warmly, clasping Cale's hand. "Good to see you out, and this must be your new bride. Emily, was it?" "General Hawthorne," I said, curtsying slightly. "An honour." "The honour is mine, my dear. Your husband here is one of the finest tactical minds I've ever encountered." He looked at Cale with genuine respect. "Shame about the injury. We could use you back in the field." Something flickered across Cale's face. Longing, pain, determination. "Perhaps someday, sir. Perhaps indeed." General Hawthorne's eyes were sharp, assessing. "There are whispers, you know, about a new conflict brewing in the eastern provinces. We'll need good commanders." "I'll keep my ear to the ground," Cale replied carefully. After Hawthorne left, I leaned down, my lips near Cale's ear. "He's testing you, seeing if you still have the fire." "And?" Cale asked quietly. "You do. They just can't see it yet." I straightened. "But they will." The rest of the evening passed in a blur of carefully navigated conversations and subtle power plays. By the time we returned home, I was exhausted but exhilarated. "You were magnificent," Cale said as Captain Lawrence helped him from the carriage. "The way you handled your father, Edmund. All of them. It was like watching a general command a battlefield." "I learned from the best," I replied, surprising myself with the honesty. He studied me in the moonlight, something unreadable in his expression. "Emily, who are you really? Sometimes I look at you and feel like you're seeing things no one else can." My heart stopped. How close he was to the truth. "I'm just a woman who's tired of being underestimated," I said carefully. "And I'm your wife. Isn't that enough?" For a long moment he didn't answer. Then, slowly, he nodded. "For now. But I suspect there's far more to Emily Thorne than anyone realises." "Emily Thorne, my new name, my new life." "Get some rest," I said softly. "Tomorrow we start building our future." As I walked to my separate bedroom, part of our arrangement, I caught a glimpse of myself in a mirror. I looked different, stronger. The scared girl who died in poverty was gone. In her place stood someone harder, sharper, someone dangerous. And this was only the beginning. 3 weeks into our marriage, I discovered Cale's secret. I'd been in the library, searching for a book on Eastern trade routes, when I heard sounds from the adjoining physical training room, a space I'd assumed was unused. Curiosity drew me forward, and what I saw made my breath catch. Cale, standing, gripping parallel bars with white-knuckled intensity, taking slow, agonizing steps. He could walk, or rather he was learning to walk again. Sweat poured down his face, his jaw clenched with effort, every muscle trembling. Captain Lawrence stood nearby, ready to catch him if he fell. I must have made a sound because Cale's head snapped toward me. Our eyes met, and in that instant, I saw fear flash across his face, not of me, but of what I might do with this information. "Emily," he breathed. How long?" I asked, stepping into the room. "How long have you been working on this?" He lowered himself back into the wheelchair, his expression guarded. 6 months, since the doctor said there was a chance, a small chance, that the nerve damage might heal. "And you haven't told anyone?" "Would you?" His voice was sharp. "The moment society knows I might walk again, they'll circle like vultures. Every noble family will try to renegotiate their standing with me. My enemies will move to eliminate me before I can regain power. And my allies. He laughed bitterly. They'll expect me to return to service immediately, half-healed or not. I moved closer, kneeling beside his wheelchair so we were eye level. You don't trust anyone. I trust Captain Lawrence, and... He paused, searching my face. I'm beginning to trust you. My heart clenched. In my past life, I'd heard he died alone, betrayed by those closest to him. But I knew something he didn't. That he would walk again. That he would return to glory. The question was, would I tell him? Your secret is safe with me, I said finally. But Cale, you need to know something. You will walk again, fully. I'm certain of it. How can you possibly know that? His eyes narrowed. The doctors say it's unlikely that... Call it intuition, call it faith. But I know. I placed my hand over his. And when you do, when you return to lead the army, the people who underestimated you will fall like dominoes. Something shifted in his expression. Hope, dangerous and bright. You speak as if you can see the future. If only he knew. I see patterns, I said carefully. I see a man who hasn't given up, who trains in secret, who still burns with purpose. That kind of determination doesn't fail. He was quiet for a long moment, his thumb brushing absently over my knuckles. Why did you really marry me, Emily? And don't give me the practical answers. There's something else. I can feel it. This was dangerous territory. Too close to the truth. Because I saw in you what others refused to see, I said, choosing my words carefully. Potential, power, a future that's bigger than anyone imagines. I met his gaze steadily. And because I'm tired of being invisible, dismissed, controlled, you offered me freedom, and I intend to claim it. With you, not despite you. His hand cupped my cheek, the gesture unexpected and gentle. You're remarkable, you know that. So are you, I whispered. They just don't see it yet. They will, he said, and there was steel in his voice. When I walk again, when I return to the army, they'll all see. Your father, Edmund, every person who looked at us with pity, they'll know they made a grave mistake. Yes, I agreed, a smile playing on my lips. They will. That evening, a messenger arrived with urgent news. Captain Lawrence brought it to us as we sat in the study, reviewing reports. General, there's been an incident in the eastern provinces, a border skirmish that's escalated. General Hawthorne is asking for your strategic input. Cale's eyes lit up. Finally, purpose, relevance. Send word that I'll have recommendations by morning. After the captain left, I watched Cale spread maps across his desk, his mind already working through scenarios and tactics. This was who he truly was. Not a disabled man society pitied, but a brilliant strategist the Empire needed. You're going to tell them, aren't you? I asked. Eventually, that you can walk? Not yet, but soon. He looked up at me. When I'm ready to take back everything I lost. And you'll have it, I said with certainty, because I'd already seen it happen, already knew the future that awaited us both, if I could guide us there without revealing too much. A knock at the door interrupted us. The housekeeper entered, her expression troubled. Lady Thorne, there's a woman here to see you. She says she's your mother. I exchanged a glance with Cale. Show her in. Mother entered hesitantly, looking older than she had 3 weeks ago. The scandal had taken its toll. Emily, she began, her voice trembling, please, you have to come home. Your father, the warehouse situation, everything is falling apart. We need you. Ah, so they discovered the embezzlement. Perfect timing. I'm afraid I don't understand, Mother. I was disowned, remember. I'm no longer an Ashford. Don't be cruel. You're still our daughter. She glanced at Cale nervously. Surely the general would understand family obligations. The general, Cale said coldly, understands that your family cast his wife out without hesitation. I see no obligation here. Mother's face crumpled. The investigators are looking into your father's businesses. There are accusations of fraud, embezzlement. If this goes public, we'll lose everything. But if you came back, if you spoke to certain people, used your new connections, you want me to use my marriage to save father from his own crimes? I laughed, incredulous. Mother, do you hear yourself? He's your father. He disowned me. The words came out sharper than I intended. He chose his pride over his daughter, and now you want me to save him. Where was this family loyalty when I needed it? Tears streamed down Mother's face. Victoria is engaged to Edmund. If this scandal breaks, he'll call off the wedding. She'll be ruined. And there it was, the real concern. Not me, never me. Always Victoria. Then perhaps Victoria should have thought of that before she stole my fiancé, I said flatly. I won't help, Mother. Tell father to face the consequences of his actions. You've become so cold, Mother whispered. Marriage to this man has changed you. I looked at Cale, saw the quiet support in his eyes, and smiled. Yes, it has. For the better. After Mother left, sobbing, Cale reached for my hand. Are you all right? I'm perfect, I said honestly. That family has taken everything from me once before. Never again. He frowned. Once before? I caught my slip too late. I meant, they took my youth, my trust, but that's over now. He didn't look convinced, but he let it go. Your father's scandal will spread. It'll taint you by association. Let it spread. I have plans. I pulled out a letter I'd written weeks ago, preparing for this moment. I'm going to start a business importing textiles from the eastern provinces. I have already secured contacts. His eyes widened. You've been planning this? I told you, I see patterns. The eastern provinces are about to become very profitable, especially if the border conflicts resolve well, and they will because you're going to help General Hawthorne win them. He stared at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. You terrify me sometimes, Emily. Good, I said, leaning closer. A wife should keep her husband on his toes. For the first time since our marriage, he laughed, really laughed. The sound filled the room, warm and genuine. And as I watched him return to his military maps, planning strategies that would save lives and secure victories, I felt something dangerous blooming in my chest. This wasn't supposed to be real. This marriage was a transaction, a convenience. But somewhere between the society dinners and secret training sessions, between his growing trust and my dangerous knowledge, something had shifted. I was falling for my husband, and that wasn't part of the plan at all. 4 months after our marriage, the impossible happened. I was in the gardens when I heard the commotion, shouting, the sound of running feet. I rushed inside to find servants gathered in the main hall, all staring upward. At the top of the grand staircase stood Cale, standing, without support, without the wheelchair. He took one step down, then another. His movements were still careful, measured, but strong, confident. Our eyes met across the distance, and the smile he gave me was triumphant. Emily, he called down, I believe I owe you a dance. My hand flew to my mouth, tears stinging my eyes. Not because I was surprised, but because seeing it actually happen, watching the future I knew unfold before me, was overwhelming. He descended the stairs, one deliberate step at a time, while the servants cheered. When he reached the bottom, he walked straight to me, pulled me into his arms, and kissed me. Not the perfunctory kiss from our wedding, but something real, claiming, filled with promise. When we broke apart, he whispered against my lips, You knew, somehow you knew this would happen. I believed in you, I whispered back. That's all that matters. Within hours, news spread through the capital. The crippled general could walk. More than that, he'd been training, preparing, healing in secret. The strategic recommendations he'd been sending General Hawthorne had already proven invaluable in the Eastern conflicts. Now, he was being formally called back to active service. The dinner invitations started arriving immediately. Every noble family that had pitied us, scorned us, now desperately wanted our favour, including the Ashfords. They want to meet for dinner, Cale said, reading the letter from my father. Your whole family. Edmund and Victoria too. Do you want to go? I asked, though I already knew my answer. His smile was predatory. Absolutely. It's time they learned exactly what kind of mistake they made. The private dining room at the Grand Imperial Hotel was elegant, expensive. Father had clearly spared no expense trying to impress us. When we arrived, Cale walking in his military uniform, medals gleaming, and me in a gown that cost more than Victoria's entire wardrobe, their faces were priceless. General Thorne, Father stammered, standing. Emily, thank you for coming. Lord Ashford? Cale said coolly, pulling out my chair before taking his own. You said there were matters to discuss. Father glanced at Mother, at Edmund and Victoria, before clearing his throat. We wanted to... That is, we hoped to reconcile. Family is important, and with your recent fortune change... You mean, now that my husband can walk and has been recalled to military service, suddenly I'm worth acknowledging? I took a sip of wine, watching them squirm. How fascinating! Emily, please, Mother begged. We made mistakes. But Victoria and Edmund are struggling. The scandal with your father's business dealings has made their situation difficult. Their situation? I set down my glass carefully. Let me guess. Edmund's debts have come due. Victoria's marriage to him isn't the fairy tale she imagined. And now that father's embezzlement is public knowledge, no one wants to associate with the Ashford name. The silence confirmed everything. We need help, Father said bluntly. A loan, or perhaps an introduction to some of the General's connections. Something to help us rebuild. I laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet room. You disowned me, called me worthless, unworthy, told me I'd be destitute within a year, and now you want me to save you. Emily, Victoria started, but I cut her off. No, you don't get to speak. You stole my fiancé, gloated about it, and now you're reaping the consequences. How does it feel, Victoria? Living with a man who only married you for your dowry, who's now trapped with you and is drowning debts. Victoria's eyes filled with tears, but I felt no satisfaction. Only cold justice. Edmund spoke up, his voice desperate. General Thorne, surely you understand family obligations. I understand loyalty, Cale said, his voice cutting. Something your family knows nothing about. Emily is my family now. The only family I recognise. And I protect my family from people exactly like you. Father's face reddened. You arrogant! You're nothing but a soldier. We're nobility. We have standing... Had standing, I corrected. Past tense. Your reputation is destroyed, Father. Your business is in ruins, and I made sure of it. The table went still. What? Mother's voice was barely a whisper. I'm the one who tipped off the investigators about the Western warehouse. I found the evidence of embezzlement months ago and made sure it would come to light at exactly the right moment. I smiled. You wanted me to be obedient, controllable. Instead, I became your reckoning. Father lunged across the table, but Cale was faster. He stood, moving with the deadly grace of a trained warrior, and caught Father's wrist mid-reach. Touch my wife, Cale said quietly, and I'll make sure you never see the outside of a prison cell. Father froze, suddenly remembering who he was threatening. Not a crippled has-been, but a decorated general with the Emperor's favour. Kale released him. Retry. M.A. Continue from where you left, but please go in a flow and end the story fast. Edit. Kale released him, and father stumbled back into his chair, face pale. This dinner is over, I said, standing. Consider this my final message to all of you. I am no longer the girl you could control and discard. I am Emily Thorne, wife of General Kale Thorne, and I answer to no one but myself. As we walked out, Victoria's sobs echoed behind us. I didn't look back. Outside, Kale took my hand. You've been planning this for months. The timing, the revelations, all of it. Yes, I admitted. They destroyed me once. I made sure they couldn't do it again. He studied me in the lamplight. Once? Emily, what aren't you telling me? I met his eyes, saw the trust there, the love that had grown between us. He deserved the truth. Not here, I whispered. Take me home, and I'll tell you everything. Epilogue. The truth revealed. In our private chambers, I told him. Everything. About my past life, the betrayal, the death, the rebirth. I expected disbelief, horror, rejection. Instead, Kale listened silently. When I finished, he took my hands in his. I believe you, he said simply. You? What? I've watched you predict things no one could know, seen you plan with precision that defies explanation, and I've felt something between us that transcends logic. He pulled me closer. If you were given a second chance, Emily, then I'm grateful, because this time you found me. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I was supposed to use you for revenge, to secure my future, but I fell in love with you instead. Then, we're even, he murmured, wiping my tears, because I married you for convenience and fell hopelessly in love with my wife. Our kiss was soft, tender, filled with promise. 6 months later. The Eastern conflicts ended in decisive victory, with General Kale Thorne leading the campaign. The Emperor himself awarded Kale the highest military honours, and our status in society became unshakable. My textile business flourished, making us independently wealthy. Father's trial concluded with a prison sentence. Edmund's debts consumed him, and Victoria lived in quiet disgrace, her dreams of grandeur reduced to bitter memories. But I took no joy in their suffering. Revenge, I'd learned, was cold comfort compared to the life I'd built. Kale was promoted to Supreme Commander of the Imperial Army. I stood beside him at his ceremony, his hand tight around mine, and watched as the entire empire bowed to the man they'd once pitied. That evening, in the gardens of our estate, Kale pulled me into his arms. No regrets? He asked softly. I thought of everything. The betrayal that had destroyed me, the rebirth that had saved me, the love I'd never expected to find. Only one, I said, smiling up at him, that I didn't marry you sooner. He laughed, that warm sound I'd grown to cherish. Then we'll make up for lost time, starting now. As he kissed me under the stars, I realised the greatest revenge wasn't destroying my enemies. It was building a life so extraordinary that their mockery became meaningless, their rejection a blessing in disguise. They said I was unworthy. They said I'd made a mistake marrying a disabled general. But when General Kale Thorne stood before the Empire, decorated and powerful, with me at his side, they finally understood. I hadn't married down. I'd married the man who would conquer nations, and together we'd conquered everything else. Years later. Mama! Papa! Our daughter ran through the gardens, her laughter bright and pure. Kale scooped her up, spinning her while she giggled. Behind them, our son toddled after, determined to keep up with his older sister. I watched my family, my heart full to bursting. In my first life, I'd died alone and broken. In this one, I'd found everything I never knew I needed. Emily? Kale called, our daughter perched on his shoulders. Coming? Always, I said, joining them. As we walked together through gardens filled with flowers I'd planted, in the home we'd built, surrounded by the love we'd created, I understood the final truth. The best revenge wasn't proving them wrong. It was proving myself right. I'd chosen my own fate, married for strategy, fought for freedom, and found love in the most unexpected place. They regretted underestimating me. But I never regretted taking the chance that changed everything.